Hey, how's it going? This is Jacob from Thin Air 3D, and today we are going to do a tutorial on how to 3D model your own 3D printable hinge. I've had a few people ask me for this. Sorry, it took me a few days to get it up, but I wanted to put some thought into it and make it, very beginner friendly, but also something that you could have something cool to print at the end and hopefully learn something so you can design your own stuff. But before we get started, if you don't have Fusion 360, it is available. You can download it for free. There's a free hobbyist license. Just Google it and you can get started. Let's jump into it. I'm going to just go over some basic navigation in case you are unaware. That way it'll help you kind of follow along. I do have some software set up down here to where you can see my keystrokes and clicks and everything. Hopefully that helps. But in case you're unaware, in Fusion 360, up here is our view cube. So you can just left click that and drag it to move around and change your view around. Whoop, hold on, pause. Before anything, go ahead and save. I already saved mine, simple hinge tutorial. Just go up here and left click save. Save your file, that way you don't lose your work. But back to the basic navigation. So we've got our view cube. You can left click any of these spots to change whatever view you want, or just go back to your home view. As far as basic navigation, if you click and hold your scroll wheel and drag around, that will pan your view. If you shift click and then hold your scroll wheel, that will rotate, and that'll look, I guess there's nothing right here to see, but you can see the view cube up in the top right. You can see that rotating around. But if you ever get disoriented, just click home and get back to it. But let's jump back into the tutorial. So what we're going to do, I think, is design just something similar to like an engagement ring box. I think that'll be a good little starter tutorial. I really do want to keep this somewhat short and sweet, but we're going to see what we can do. I'm just going to be designing it as I go. I haven't designed this before. Like I said, I've done hinges, but I haven't done this exact box. We're doing it together. And we're just going to see how it turns out. I want you to kind of see the process, the actual real design process, not me just slapping something together that I've already done. So we may make some mistakes along the way, but that's going to be okay because I think we'll all learn something from it together. So let's just get started. We're going to go up here and left click create sketch. And then we're going to left click on our front plane or the XZ plane. You can see it already oriented us up front. So we're just going to draw the side profiles of the two halves of the boxes and then extrude them out, and then we'll get started on the hinge. So first thing we'll do is select 2-point rectangle. If you don't see it in your menu, you can go to your drop down right here to 2-point rectangle. And then you're going to left click that and then left click at our origin point and then drag it out a little bit. You can see down below it's highlighted. So I'm just going to punch in 60 millimeters and then hit tab, and we're going to go 30 millimeters tall, I think. Actually, let's go 40. Really quick though, I just realized your units may be set to inches. I have mine set to millimeters. If they are to inches, and you are trying to follow along with this, then you can change them. Just go up here and find preferences, and then open up your preferences menu. Once it opens, okay, so down here and unit and value display, click that, and then under material unit display, I have mine set to metric, millimeter, Newton seconds. So yours may be set to English inches, I think. But yeah, this is what I have mine set at. Click that, or set it to it, and then apply OK, and then you'll be good to go. So we've got the bottom half of the box drawn. Let's draw the other half of the box. So we're going to select 2-point rectangle again. Quick little shortcut that you can do is just right click and then drag up, and you see how it says repeat 2-point rectangle. That's a quick little workflow speed up shortcut for you. But you can see that we've got the cursor. I'm going to line this up with the bottom edge of the box we already drew and drag it out. You can see that dotted line that tells us that it's lined up. And then I'm just going to left click and drag outwards. And then I'm going to punch in 60 again for this dimension. And then this is going to be the lid. So hit tab. And then as far as the height goes, we don't want them to be the same height because boxes with the same height look a little weird. I've already done that. I made that mistake. One of my first hinged boxes I ever made looked goofy as shit. But let's try 25. It kind of makes things a little weird with the design process, but not much different. So now that we got 25, I'm going to hit enter. We've got our side profiles of the boxes drawn, and we're good to go. These dimensions, one thing to note really quick, this is kind of annoying and in the way. But if I wanted to change this, like say I wanted it to be 30 instead of 25, all you got to do is double click that dimension and then type in 30, enter, and that will adjust it for you. But I want it 25, so I'm going to hit Control Z, and that's going to undo that for me. Another thing, just a thing that I personally, I don't know, I'm kind of OCD about it, but I don't like this dimension being over here in the way, overlapping. So, you know, you could just drag it over, but then you can see if you look really close, those dimension lines are overlapping. I also don't like that, so I'm just going to left click this, hit delete, and then I'm going to hit D on my keyboard, and you can see near my cursor the dimension tool. You can see it highlighted up here as well. But I'm just going to left click this line, drag this out, left click again, enter. So dimensions on the right side, that's just something I like to keep things somewhat clean. But let's keep moving. We're going to hit finish sketch. And then next we're going to extrude these profiles out and make our boxes. So we're going to go up here, left click extrude, select these surfaces, and then we're going to extrude them out 60 because that's the width that we have them. So you can drag this out 60 if you want, or this is highlighted like everything else, so you can just punch in your keyboard 60, press enter, and we're good to go. We've got our box and our lid. Now before I move any further, I want to change these to components. I'm not going to get deep into bodies versus components. I'm not going to get deep into parameters or constraints. This is a beginner tutorial. I will have more tutorials kind of going through as much of Fusion 360 as I can over time. But these right now are what are called bodies, and we're going to convert them to components. Don't worry too much about what that means if you don't understand, but this menu over here, the bodies menu, we're going to left click this to drop down. And you can see body one right here. We're going to right click this, and then we're going to hit create components from bodies. And then you can see component 1 down here. I'm just going to left double click this and rename it box, and then hit enter. And then the same thing with the lid. It's still a body, so I'm going to right click, create component from body. It created a component. I'm going to double click and then name it lid. Now, just as a really brief explanation, it's better to have components separated, you know, whenever they are separate parts that will be moving from each other. That's very, very oversimplified explanation, but I'll do a video later explaining components and bodies, or kind of just help weave it in throughout other lessons. But let's go ahead and hollow these out so they're actually boxes. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but there's a cool command that makes it pretty quick and easy. The shell command, if you don't see it up here, just click modify and then find it in your menu. We're going to click that, and then we're going to click the top surface of the box and the top surface of the lid, and then we're going to tell it how thick we want it to be. I'd say 4 millimeters should be okay, I think. And then we're going to hit enter. So now we've got our boxes shelled out, and we can go ahead and start creating our hinge, which is going to be over here. So I'm going to left click on front. Now, if you saw one of my other little pointer videos, you saw the halfway rule to determine where our hinge point is going to be. So let's go ahead and figure that out. One thing that I kind of goofed on, but this is actually a good learning lesson on fixing your mistakes, I guess, is I didn't determine the distance between these boxes. So let's go ahead and go back into our sketch and do that. So we can find our sketch a couple different ways. We can either go down here to our timeline, and our first sketch, you can right click and hit edit sketch, or we can go to our sketches drop down menu over here, this same sketch, and we can right click that and hit edit sketch. Either way works, but what we want to do is determine this space between these two boxes. So we're going to hit D on our keyboard, and then we're going to click this line, and then click this line, and you'll see our distance between them is right here, 7.23. Let's just make that an even 6. I think that'll work well for what we're doing, and then hit finish sketch, and everything is sorted out. We've got that distance correct. I'm going to hide this sketch. Sorry if these clicks and stuff are getting in the way, but up on this menu you can see the visibility of the eyeball. I'm just going to go ahead and hide that because we don't need that right now, and close this menu. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and start building our hinge. Now, back to the halfway rule, we know that these are 6 millimeters apart. If you ever want to check anything, you can just go up here, left click inspect, and then left click this wall. Let me shift scroll wheel to rotate around, left click this wall, And you can see that distance right there, 6 millimeters. You can also see it over here as 6 millimeters apart. So we're good to go on our distance. One thing, I guess we'll go ahead and draw out our cylinder for the box. One thing that I also did kind of goofy, because like I said, we're just kind of making this up as we go. One thing I generally like to do when I'm extruding things is I like to keep the origin in the very center. So right up here, I just made the origin visible again. Let me hide this box in your origin point. This is where we created our original sketch off of. I generally like to keep the origin right in the center, and I'll explain in why in a little bit, but you can see I have it all the way to the left of the box. Another thing that I goofed on, but I guess another good learning lesson. Go down here to extrude, right click, edit feature, and then you can see it went 60 millimeters all the way out to one direction. What I want is this to go symmetrically both directions, and we still want it to be 60, but so I'm going to change this to 30 in either direction. And we've still got the same size, but now we've got our origin in the center, and that's going to help us out a lot, as we move forward. Which right here, we're going to go ahead and start creating our hinge. So let's go back into our original sketch again. And this is one of those things, if you know Fusion 360, or if you've got some experience, you're probably thinking, why is this guy jumping around so much? I'm just, I've said it before, but I'm just making this up on the fly. Let's go back into our original sketch and let's draw our cylinder. So edit sketch, and then let's draw the cylinder that's going to be our hinge. Now really quick, the hinge is going to be print in place. So the innermost part, the shaft that the hinge rotates around, the minimum size that we're probably going to want that to be is somewhere around like 3 millimeters. You get much smaller than that and you have some issues. But then from there, it's going to be rotating around in an open shaft. So we're going to want that open shaft to be at least, this is where your clearances come into play. We're going to want it to be at least like a 3.3. I'd say 3.4 to be safe. When it comes to the clearances on your hinges, you are going to have to play with it. It has to do with your cooling, how well your printer is working and everything. But generally, for myself, I can get away with like a 0.2 millimeter clearance, or sometimes even less. Just depends, really. Actually, probably not often less, but 3.4 should be safe. Which actually, okay, so this needs to be 3.8 because these are diameters. So if it's 3.8, then we're going to have 0.4 millimeters of clearance on either side. So that should be good. But all that to say, from there, we're going to want our outer shaft. We want to determine that. We want it to be fairly thick. So let's say, and actually to determine this thickness, a little easier way to do this, I just hit escape. I'm going to left click offset, and then I'm going to select this circle, and we're just going to tell it how far we want it to be, which I think we want it to be at least, itself like 3 millimeters thick. So we've got that offset 3 millimeters. So this is roughly how big we're going to want our hinge to be. Sorry if I didn't explain what what we were doing right here, but let's go ahead and take these and move them into place. Now you can just left click and drag them wherever you want to be, but we're going to dimension them to where we want them to be, which we want them to be directly in the center. Now we know that the gap is 6 millimeters between these two, so we want this to be 3 millimeters away. So we're going to hit D on the keyboard, select the center of this circle, or left click it, and then we're going to left click this, and you can see it's got the distance set out. We're going to left click one more time, and then type in 3 and hit enter. Now we've got that in the right position. Now let me hit escape. Now we need to determine what the height difference between this upper lip, the two mating surfaces is, the second half of that halfway rule, which this is 40 high, this is 25 high, so we know that this distance is 15 millimeters, so this needs to be 7.5 millimeters, the center point of this circle, from both of these surfaces. So I'm going to hit D again, and then I'm going to click this center point, and then I'm going to do this surface. It does make a difference, but it'll look a little cleaner. So left click here, and then you can see we're at like 7.8. I'm going to left click again, and then type in 7.5 and hit enter. Which actually, Okay, here's another good learning lesson on constraints and dimensioning, and I guess this is my mistake for not worrying about constraints and dimensioning, but look at this really quick. I'm going to hit escape, and then what happened whenever I did that 7.5 and hit enter was it dragged this whole box all the way up instead of dragging this circle downward. Watch this, Control Z, you can see it go down, and then Control Y, you can see it go up. Control Z, down, Control Y, go up. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. Like I said, this has to do with constraints and all that fun stuff. But we're just gonna fix this the cheat way, I guess. We're gonna make this line coincident with this line, or basically in line with it. So up here we've got our constraints, or not coincident, but collinear. So we're gonna left click this collinear constraint, and then we're gonna say that we want this constrained to this. And you see it dragged it back down, and now these are collinear again. So that's just a quick fix to that. Like I said, I'm not worrying about constraints fully right now. This is already gonna be a decent tutorial, but let's go ahead and click finish sketch, and then you can see that it disappeared. That's because we've already used that sketch to do an extrusion before. So let's drop down our sketch menu and click the eyeball to make it visible again, and now we can see where our hinge is. So let's go ahead and extrude out our cylinder. I'm thinking for this, the hinge will probably just be kind of most of the distance. Let's just take a look and see. So let's left click extrude, and then we're going to left click all of these profiles. Or actually, no. We're just going to left click the outermost profiles. Don't left click these inner surfaces. We don't need to worry about that. The reason I'm kind of fumbling over that is because I'm doing this a little differently than I've done before. I kind of do it differently every time because I'm always trying to figure out new ways or improve it, all that fun stuff. But we're going to go over here and we're going to click symmetric so it goes out left and right. And then we're just going to kind of drag it and take a look and see what it looks like. Let's see. Let's do 20 millimeters. I think 20 millimeters should look good. Let's click to the right. That should be a nice strong hinge. That'll cover most of it. Might even be able to get away with doing something a little bit shorter. But before we do anything, you'll see that it's trying to cut into our box. We want to go down here and change this to new component because this is going to be our hinge. And you can see that changed from a cut to a solid object. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we have got our hinge. But one thing we want to do, obviously, is we need to accommodate this hinge in this box because it's cutting into it a little bit. And really quick, you can have these boxes as, with the halfway rule, you can have these boxes as far apart as you want. It just ends up looking a little goofy. You can also have them very, very, very close together. And we can always change that later. But for now, we're just kind of building it as is. I've actually done boxes too where the lid was like literally less than half a millimeter away from it, as long as there's enough clearance so it doesn't fuse together, and then a little hinge in the middle. But whatever, this is the box that we're building today. So let's go ahead and make that cutout really quick. So I'm just going to hide this hinge, or I'm going to rename it. So I named it component 3. I'm going to double click, rename it hinge, and then press enter. And then I'm going to hide it so it's out of our way. And then we're going to make a cutout to accommodate for this hinge. So let's do this. Let's go front view. Let's hide the box as well. So it's, well, actually, yeah, okay. So let's go back into our sketch and edit sketch. And this is the way, like I said, some people, they plan it all out ahead of time and they do it all in that initial sketch and then just wham, 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 extrude it all. I feel like this is a little easier to kind of, do the whole modeling on the fly or as you go type thing that I like to do. So let's just make this be able to cut this chunk of this box out. And it'll make sense here in a second, but let's left click line. And then, actually, so we want the bottommost part of this circle. We want that tangent point. So let's draw a straight line down from the center of the circle, vertical down, and then hit left click this little green check mark. And then you can see right here, now it's letting us snap to this bottommost part of the circle. So I'm going to left click, and I'm just going to drag this out. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to drag it out here. Doesn't matter. I'm going to scooch over, holding the wheel, and then I'm going to draw this up vertically, once again, doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to draw this over, and you can see that dotted line once it's in line with our center circle again. I'm just going to draw this down and then connect it and then hit escape, and we're good to go. Now, I'm sorry if this is confusing, but it'll make a lot more sense here in just a moment. Actually, shit, I fucked up. Let me do this. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. What we actually want is a line going up from here. So let's do this. Let's draw our line out this way. Left click, press check mark, and then let's find this center point, and we're going to bring this straight up. Left click, left click, left click. Which we could have just drawn a box too, but it doesn't really matter. Escape, and then finish sketch. Again, sorry if this is confusing you, but it'll make sense here in a second. So we're going to go ahead and cut out our space for the hinge. So let's hit extrude, and then let me hide this box. So hide. We want to cut out this profile and this profile and all of this, because this is where the hinge is going to be lying. So unhide our box, and then our hinge went 20 millimeters symmetrically. We also want this to go 20 millimeters symmetrically. And let's actually do 20.5 to give us a little bit of clearance space. But okay, so we've got our cut, and let's see what it looks like with our hinge there. So there, we've got our cut, and this should accommodate our hinge well. We'll add some more clearances later. There's certain clearances as far as like the mobility of the hinge that I'm not too horribly worried about just yet. Like I said, we're gonna add those in later. And actually, I want to make one more cut. So let's go back into that sketch. Y'all are gonna get frustrated with me going back and forth into this sketch, but this is my process when I'm just winging it, and you're gonna deal with it. So I just edited that sketch, and what I want to do is just take off this chunk behind the hinge. That'll give us a little bit of mobility. It just looks nicer. It'll make sense later, or at least it might. We'll see. So let me edit that last cut, edit feature, and then let me hide this box. I want to select this as well. So I just left clicked it, and then select the box again, and then hit cut. Now, let me hide this sketch so it looks a little better. Here, we've got our hinge, and that just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit better. And if we hide the hinge, this is kind of where the hinge will like rotate it across, and it's going to be connected. The outermost parts of the hinge will be connected to this box, and then other parts will be connected to this box. So let's just keep moving, and hopefully everyone's following along right now. And we're all still on the same page. So what we want to do is we want to divide this hinge up into 3 pieces. That way, let's show you. So we're going to have the inner piece connected to this box, and then the outer pieces connected to, or the inner piece connected to the lid, and the outer piece is connected to the box. Oh, just noticed something else. Y'all are gonna hate me, but let's fix this hinge really quick and get rid of this hole in the center. So let's go back to this extrusion, edit this, and let's select all these profiles. Let's just go ahead and make it all one hinge for now. That'll make sense later. But yeah, let's chop this hinge up into 3 equal pieces. So let's get rid of the box and the lid. And then generally what I like to do is we will create a sketch. Actually, shit, okay. How long did we make this thing? Let's see, inspect. We made it 40 millimeters. So that means we want it a little bit over 13 each. We'll just do 14 in. So watch this trick real quick. Let's do construct offset plane. Click this, do -14, enter, go to the other side, same thing, offset plane, click this, -14, enter. And then what we're going to do is hit split body, select our hinge, and then we're going to go over here to splitting tools, select that, and then we're going to select both of these planes, and we've got everything all split up. We can go ahead and get rid of these planes really quick or just get them out of our way. So let's go to the construction drop down menu and hide those planes. So now you can see we've got our 3 separate sections, and if you click our hinge drop down under bodies, we've got the 3 separate bodies. What we want to do is go ahead and add our clearance on this as well. So let's just hide this center one, and then we will go to press pull, and we're going to press this. Let's do -0.3, and then right click, drag up, repeat, press pull, grab this face, -0.3, enter. And then let's go ahead and unhide this, and you can see we've got a nice little bit of clearance for our hinge. Let's take a look back at what we've got going on with the box and the lid. Okay, so we need to connect these 2 outer pieces to this box first, and we also need to make it print and placeable. So what we're going to do is just, let's see. All right, let's do this to connect them. We're going to, okay, we actually didn't need to add that outer clearance. Remember when we did that cut and we made it 20.5? Let's fix that to 20. So not that one, cancel this second one right here, edit feature, instead of 20.5, let's just do 20. Now they're touching on the outer edges. Now what we're going to do is do a combine. So we're going to combine, we want our target body selected first, and then it's going to prompt us to select our tool bodies, which is going to be this and this. And then we're going to hit join. And now you can see under, well, whenever you select the box, well, sorry, hide this piece of the hinge. Let me make sure that it connected correctly. Okay, yeah, so now you can see that that's all just one body. Now what we want to do is make it to where it will actually print in place, because obviously this isn't going to work. This little crevice right here, we want to connect this so we don't have any issues printing. So what we'll do is create a sketch, and then you're going to hit P for project, and you're going to select this, and you're going to select this, and then hit OK. Now we've got some geometry that we can work with. All we're going to do, pretty simple, we're just kind of tracing it, drawing it how we want it. Let's just get a line down here. The only goal is to make sure that it doesn't interfere with this corner, but let's just connect it and draw this out here somewhere. Left click, hit OK, and then hit escape. And we just want this to be tangent to this, so we're going to use our tangent constraint. So tangent, make this tangent to this. Now, the whole goal here is that this needs to be greater than 135 degrees, because if you look at, with any 3D print, it has to, or basically it can't be printing over that 45-degree mark. Or actually, let me delete this. This right here, if it's greater than 45 degrees, you may end up struggling. So what we're going to do is just drag this dot down, and see, or we can make this exactly 45 degrees. And then we know that it will be able to print. Now from here, we're just going to hit Finish Sketch, and then we are going to extrude, select this feature, and then drag it a little bit, but then select that and hit OK. So now that is going to print. Now what we need to do is mirror that feature to the other side. So we're going to hit Create. Oh, I'm sorry, Modify. Nope, we gotta go back to Create. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So we're gonna hit Mirror, and then we're gonna change Faces to Features, and then we're gonna select this last feature, and then we're gonna hit the mirror plane that we want, which we want it to mirror it across our XZ plane. And then we're gonna hit OK, and then boom, we've got our print in place situation on both sides. So let's go ahead and hide this box and unhide this part of this hinge. Now we need to do the same over here. We need, oops, sorry. We need to connect this to this, which should be easier because we don't have, or it's up a little bit higher in comparison. So what we'll do is create a sketch. Sorry if I'm kind of flying through this now. I just know that this is a longer tutorial and I want it to be as short and sweet as possible. But we're going to hit P for project. We're going to project this. We're going to project this face and then hit OK. And then we are going to draw our line from here, just out here into space, wherever. We're going to make it tangent to the circle. And then we want our angle from here to here to be 45 degrees. And then, okay, so here's where we've got some decision making on, I guess how to make the hinge not look stupid. Oh, shit, I didn't mean to hit Finish Sketch. So Control Z gets us back into our sketch. But yeah, we have to connect this. So I think the easiest way will be to have a line going straight down, tangent. So let's draw a line from the center point of our circle out horizontally, and then hit OK, and that'll give us this connection point right here. Be careful though. You see how that little triangle is popping up next to it? That's the midpoint symbol. We don't want the midpoint of that line. We want this connection point right here. And then we're just going to draw this line down, connect here, and then hit OK. And now you can see we've got this face able to select. And that may end up looking a little weird, but we're going to fix that, so don't worry about it. So we're going to hit Finish Sketch, and then we're going to extrude. We're going to select this. We're going to drag it just a little bit, and then select this face. Then we're going to hit OK. And now we've got this connected. Like I said, it looks a little bit weird, so let's do this. Let's do a press pull on this face. No, not that face, just this one. And we're going to bring it to here. Let me see something. I don't know if that's going to goof everything else up. Let's take a look. Sorry, just kind of thumbing around, seeing. Okay, so we don't want that press pull, so I'm going to hit Control Z. And then what we'll do, we're just going to draw this a little bit differently. So let's go back into that sketch, edit sketch, and we're going to hit P for project, and we're going to project this line right here. Hit OK. And then we're just going to make this line go like this. Make sure it's not on that triangle. And we'll go to this point right here. And honestly, this doesn't need to be 45. We can drag this down a little bit because that'll print even easier and not look as stupid. And then hit Finish. And that looks a little bit better. That's a little bit more of a respectable hinge, in my opinion. So let's open this box back up. You can see now we've got the basis for everything laid out. Real quick, just to check, let's do a test before we actually like build the tube through the hinge and all that. So to test this really quick, we are going to just hit move, and then we're going to go down here and hit rotate. We're going to select our box. Hold on. Clear the selection. Select the box. Oh wait, no, the lid. I'm sorry. We want the lid. Okay, it's being finicky. Exit out of that. Let me select this whole lid. I don't think these are connected. Hold on. Okay. We need to connect these two together. Sorry, I'm the worst at this, I guess. So let me cancel out of that. I'm jumping everywhere. Let's see. We're gonna click combine, and then we are going to select the target body, and then we are going to select the tool body, and then hit join. Now we've got this all as one. Now we can do our test. I'm dumb. So we're gonna hit move, select rotate, select our lid, and then for the axis we're just gonna choose this cylinder, and then we'll go to the front view and just make sure everything rotates the way we want it to, and boom. Everything looks pretty good as far as how we need it. So let's hit cancel, and let's build out the rest of this hinge. So what we're gonna do is, let me get rid of the box. We're going to make a hole going through this with that clearance, going through this part of the hinge, and then we are going to have a bar going from here to here that will hold the other hinge in place. So let's go ahead and draw that stuff out. We have that in our first sketch, those circles that we drew. So let's go ahead and hit extrude, and we're going to select this innermost circle, and we're going to go symmetric, and we're going to have it go to these faces. Real quick, let me just show you a tiny little trick. I don't know if you've been struggling with it or if I didn't explain it before, but whenever I hit extrude and I select this surface, if I select this, it'll go directly to it, but sometimes it won't. Sometimes it can be a little wonky. That's why I always select it and drag it a little bit first and then click the surface, but we actually need to have symmetric on. That's just a little tidbit of why I drag it first before. But we're going to hit OK for that to join, and then we are going to hide our box. We're going to show the lid, and then we're going to do another extrude, and we're going to do the whole circle with the clearance built in. We're going to hit symmetric, drag this to this face. It's already set to cut, and then we're going to go boom, right there. Hide this sketch, bring the box back. Now, one way that we can check this really quick, we can do an analysis. So let's do a section analysis right here. And then, actually, yeah, okay, section analysis, and then we're going to choose our XZ plane again, and then hit OK. And you can see right here, we've got that clearance. And if we do that rotate test again, select the body, click axis, select the axis, you can see that hinge should rotate freely around that bar in the center. Now, the only other spot that might create some friction is these parts rubbing against each other. So let's cut it away. And then, yeah, let's try something. So let's try split body, split this guy, and then splitting tools using this. No, that's not going to work. I know. let's do it the other way around. Let's do split body, split this one using this edge and this edge. And then bring that lid back. No. Okay, I'm making this complicated. Let me hide this analysis or the section analysis view. And then let me hide the lid. And we're just going to do a press pull. Push pull this minus 1 millimeter. And then let's take a look and see if our lid has the clearance it needs now. Okay, so we've got the clearance that we need. Maybe let's make that less than a millimeter. Oops, hold on, Control Z. I chose the wrong one. This one, I'm gonna make it minus 0.5 millimeters. That looks a little bit better. And that won't touch because it's at the bottommost point. So we're safe on that. That looks good. And then if this is rotating around this axis, okay, so the very last thing that we need to do is whenever this thing goes to close, those lids are going to be kind of snug on each other. So what we want to do is add a little bit of clearance, and it's as simple as just doing a press pull on the top face, then bringing it down like 0.4 or so. Something that you end up having to play with, but this is it. We've got our hinge with our print and placeable box. Everything will print in place. Everything should work. The only thing that you may end up having to do is going in and editing these clearances a little bit. Like say for instance, let me hide this lid. Say for instance this didn't have enough clearance and it was sticking together. What you could do is, let me see, you could just go in and hit press pull and click that and bring it out another minus 0.1 or minus 0.2, or if it was too loose then you could bring it in plus 0.1 or plus 0.2 or whatever you need to adjust your model and get it to work for you. So that's pretty much it. I guess real quick we'll go into how to export it for 3D print. Let me save. I probably should have saved this at some point during this, but I'm going to hide this origin. To get it ready for 3D print, all we have to do, File, Export, and then you want to export it as an STL. And then you're going to choose where you're exporting it to. And click export. And then you've got your file ready to 3D print. I'm actually going to go ahead and 3D print this box. That way I can make sure that everything looks good and make sure that I didn't just feed you a bunch of crap, because anytime you're dealing with constraints or clearances and stuff like that, you want to make sure that everything is flowing correctly. So real quick, actually, I should have done this before I exported. I'm going to add some fillets to make it a little bit more printer friendly. So I'm just going to add a fillet to all these outer edges on the box and the lid. Reason being is everyone knows that first layer adhesion is extremely important, but can also be tricky sometimes. So you want to give yourself every advantage you can get. Let's do a 3mm fillet, and that'll make these edges rounded. Oh, my keyboard's wanting to act finicky. Yeah, okay, so that'll make these edges rounded, and the rounded edges will be a lot less likely to warp or pull up than the corners when it's printing. So we're going to go ahead and print this, and the beautiful thing about a YouTube video is that you don't have to wait for it to get printed. So let's take a look and see how it turned out. I printed it off on my Keedy X Pro, and I used Amelin color changing PLA. I thought it'd be cool. It changes from green to yellow, but overall everything worked out pretty good. Hinge swings freely, so I think we are in the clear. I think the only things that I'd really edit about this current design or change up, if I wanted to improve upon it, besides like, maybe some outer appearance stuff using emboss and all that. But I would edit this a little bit. This spot right here, um, this corner, it's a little bit closer than our normal clearances, and it did almost want to stick. It came apart just fine without much resistance, but I think it'd be a little bit of a cleaner surface right here with that pulled a little bit away. So you could just do like a simple cut or something. And then other than that, after I printed it off, I realized that this gap right here we probably don't need. So you could do something. Let's see how this looks. Let's do a press pull on this. Pull this up to the surface. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it too much because I don't want this tutorial to drag on forever. But yeah, hopefully that you found this useful. I really hope this wasn't too long and boring and whatever else. Hope that you got what you were looking for out of it and that you can design some of your own hinges. If you do follow along with this and design this same box or something similar, or the same type of hinge or something, I'd love to see it. So tag me in it, whatever you posted on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I don't know, doesn't matter. But either way, good luck, and hopefully I'll be releasing a lot more tutorials very soon on whatever random Fusion 360 topics, maybe some Blender stuff, but I'm still learning Blender myself, so maybe I could do some comparison videos between the two. But let me know in the comments if there's anything else specific that you'd like to see modeled or learn or whatever. I'm still learning how to do these tutorials, so we'll see how it goes.